everybody. Welcome to the Gapology Guys Podcast, your place for leadership development conversations with practical advice that you can use right away in your role to close performance gaps and achieve your greatest potential. And tonight we'll be wrapping up our conversation on the Gapology Framework with an overview of the 9 root solutions that can help you close and prevent gaps in your teams. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good, Brian. How's it going?
I'm good. Really, it's kind of sad because we're getting to the end of going through our primary framework for Gapology. I feel like we just started this a minute ago.
Why are you sad? The world needs to know it, and when they embrace it, it'll change everything.
I know, but you know how much I love talking about this stuff. So,
Yeah,
but
we could do the same podcast though every week,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
would be helpful to all the new leaders out there.
yeah.
Think of the students coming through college
hmm
that would benefit from understanding the root solutions of gapology.
Right. And that's a great segue because that is our topic tonight. So for the last 3 episodes, we went through each of the performance gaps. So we went through knowledge, importance, and action. And if you haven't had a chance to watch that or listen to those podcasts, make sure to go back and do that because we do give a great overview of those different topics. But today we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. So we're going to look at how do you actually close the performance gaps? And we have a set of root solutions. We have 9 of them that we're going to give you a super high level overview of them, just to sort of walk you through some of these things that you can start applying right away. So do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, so for anyone that doesn't know the history, we didn't invent gapology. We studied and observed the top performing leaders in an organization, and then we studied and observed the bottom performing leaders in an organization. And in that, we were like shocked because the top performing leaders had a consistent behavior, which we called gapology. We coined it as gapology. And the bottom performing group didn't do that stuff. So it was pretty amazing. So we concluded that it's human nature, it's the way to excellence. And those leaders, without knowing each other or even communicating, did gapology. And so the root solutions are really the framework of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to share that with you tonight if you haven't heard it. If you've heard it, the amazing thing for me when I wrote down my notes for this is it was like, wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Some of it was new to me as I wrote it down, and it's pretty significant. So we consider gapology to be something that if any leader, it can be, any role, but a leader, a teacher, whatever your role where you are involved with other people, you can dramatically affect results if you understand the Gapology framework.
Even if you're sort of what we call an emerging leader, so you don't have a big team, you're just kind of learning some of this stuff. Gapology is a great place to start, but I think it's even more impactful when you have some experience. And then as you go through and you read Gapology and you go through this and you start applying this stuff, you can pull on some of your background and skills and things that you've done in your career where you can start to apply this stuff and bring it all together.
Yeah, so we're going to share the root solutions of Gapology with you tonight. And the root solutions, there's 3 gaps: knowledge, importance, and action. And the root solutions form a 3x3 framework of Gapology. So there's 3 root solutions for each of the 3 gaps. So that 3x3 framework can literally become your toolbox. It's pretty much all inclusive. It covers everything you will encounter in a given day, everything you will encounter with a given, winning team or losing team. So as a leader, if you understand the 3x3 framework of Gapology and are able to apply it, you are going to be a top performer. We have seen it over and over again. So again, three gaps, and each of them with three root solutions. And the one thing I would tell you is that the greatest leaders applied them proactively.
Mhm.
Think about that, Brian. They
Mhm.
didn't wait for the gaps to occur. They prevented the gaps by applying the root solutions proactively.
Mhm.
That's huge. I can't understate how big that is. Let me have you comment on that
Yeah.
before I go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I think that is sort of crafted into the word root solutions that we chose. So, a lot of people look at root causes, and that's sort of everything's retroactive there. You're doing it after the fact. And there's a lot of different methodologies. There's lean. There's a lot of other ones out there where you look at root causes and that kind of thing to minimize waste and so forth. And while all those are really great, the one of the beauties of Gapology is that you can look at these things proactively. You can do things ahead of time to prevent gaps. So it's not just about fixing things that are already occurring, but it's actually things that you can do right now to prevent them.
Yeah, that's huge. So we didn't know that going into it. So
Right?
the top
No.
performing leaders prevented gaps from happening before they happened. So gapology isn't only about closing gaps that have occurred. It's about proactively preventing gaps, and the root solutions literally do that. And the top performing leaders literally would use what we call gapology every day, no joke. They would have teachings that they would do with their team. They would have something we call teachable points of view that they would do in a situational scenario. And they would teach these to their team. So over time, those leaders were incredible gapologists, and they created a team of gapologists working for them. And through that, they created results that were beyond what others could even understand. Because again, the gaps didn't occur, top performance did occur, industry leading performance occurred. And the other thing that you already mentioned, but we found that this works in every industry. It works within a team environment. It just simply works. And we believe that to be the foundation of it. And if you as a leader learn it and apply it proactively, get ahead of it,
Mhm.
top performance is what it is. And the weird thing again for us is that we're out observing the top performers. They all do the same thing in a different way, maybe, but they do the same thing as if they've been taught gapology, but they haven't been. And it's like it's this human nature thing that creates great results. The other weird thing was that we observed, not only did we observe the top 10% performance in an organization, but we then went and observed the bottom 10% performers in that organization, and they didn't do this stuff. Top 10 did it, bottom 10 didn't do it. None of them trained in it, and everything changed once we knew Gapology.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is sort of interesting here too is, well, first of all, as you were talking about that, I wrote down universal truth. I don't know if you remember, we were in a meeting together and we were presenting Gapology, and somebody sort of jumped out of his chair and says, "This is universal truth. This is something that is everywhere. It really doesn't matter if it's one industry or another. When you're talking about people leading people, these nine root solutions all apply." And then the other thing I was going to mention is you and I
That
were
was one of
talking.
the greatest days of my life, by the way, when that happened,
Yeah,
because he danced along with it.
that's right.
Universal truth.
Yeah,
Gapology is a universal truth.
yeah, yeah,
And he was correct. But sorry,
yeah, yeah, and a good dancer. Um,
not
the
really, but
the the thing that you and I were talking about earlier today, um, when we're looking at the root solutions and we're saying, all right, so if you were a university professor and you're really well versed in this stuff, and, leadership and whatever, if you were to pick out 9 things that people would do to close performance gaps, would they pick out these same 9? I thought that was an interesting question, and I don't know if they would. But I think what you said there is that we didn't create this. We found it, we discovered it through the winning leaders. So that discovery is different than just sitting in some classroom, boardroom, science lab and coming up with this stuff.
Yeah, we didn't come up with it. We observed it and said, "Oh wow,
Hmm.
we better document this stuff." So we certainly saw that the gaps were knowledge gap, importance gap, and action gap. And then as we observed the top performing group within those, they closed three very distinct root solutions. They used three very distinct root solutions to close the knowledge gap, three to close the importance gap, and three to close the action gap. So the 9 were right there for us, and we're like, wow, there's 9 things, and they were all inclusive. They literally close every scenario you would come, you know, into confrontation with as a leader. It's
Hmm.
all right there.
Yeah.
If you learn these 9 root solutions, you can accomplish virtually anything because nothing occurs out of the 9. I don't understand that, but that's how we found it. And again, we learned it from the top leaders and we learned it from the bottom leaders because they didn't do these.
Hmm.
And it was like, wow. So picture in an organization a given metric, KPI, and this one group, top 10%, blows it out of the water. And this other group, bottom 10%, doesn't come close. We observed their behavior, and through that, we found the 9 root solutions to the 3 knowledge gaps. So it
Hmm.
appears to be quite foolproof
Yep.
and something that, as a leader, you would walk into your, team meeting, team visitation, Zoom call, conference call. I don't know what you do. Uh, Equipped with these 9, you're powerful.
Yep.
You're able to accomplish things others can't even imagine.
Yeah. And one of the things we talk about with the gap closure is to move left to right, knowledge and then importance and then action,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you're in the sort of analysis mindset, when you're trying to figure out why you're experiencing gaps.
Yeah,
Um,
let's cover that real quick then. So walk them through the knowledge, importance, and action, just in case they haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, so what we're really talking about is context. So thinking about, so if you're trying to discover why you have some sort of gap where you're missing an expectation, you set an expectation, you're not hitting it, and you're in sort of analysis mode. You want to move left to right. You want to start with knowledge. Does my team know what to do, and do they know how to do it? If the answer is no, then you have a knowledge gap. If the answer is yes, and then you ask the question, all right, so does my team know why they need to do something or when they need to do it within the scope of all their competing priorities and that type of thing? If the answer is no, then you have an importance gap. And if the answer is yes, and you continue on and you're still trying to figure out your gap, and you ask, all right, so is my team making the choice to take action? And if the answer is no at that stage, then you have an action gap. And as leaders, we own the closure of these gaps. The action gap's a little bit of a shared ownership there, where the team does need to make the choice to take action, but we own leveraging these root solutions that we're going to discuss today. So that's sort of the flow. And you want to really work left to right. That's the best and most effective way to figure this out.
Yeah. No, thank you, Brian.
Sure.
It's really foolproof. So if you as a leader learn these and use them daily, whether it's in person or in meetings or on calls or on Zoom or remote, or whatever else there is out there. I don't know what there is. Does AI exist? I don't know.
Yeah, AI.
AI loves Gapology, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh man. Type
it,
in Gapology into your AI thing.
it's
It
figuring
goes
it out.
crazy over it, just
Yeah,
so you're clear.
yeah, yeah.
And so, just so you understand our context, we have had people that we've taught Gapology to and taught these 9 root solutions to that were part-time employees, maybe full-time hourly, that are now presidents of organizations. Did you hear that, Brian?
I heard you. Gotcha.
Presidents of big organizations.
Hmm.
And when we talk to them frequently, they will tell us that Gapology is what got them there.
Hmm.
So when you understand Gapology, you can literally execute with virtually any team and win big. It's amazing. We didn't know that going into it. We didn't invent it. We discovered it, and it works. And the 9 root solutions are right there. I think we're going to have to do probably another podcast on the root solutions just to give more detail. Maybe tonight we only give them an overview, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
they're incredibly significant. So
Hmm.
picture a 3 by 3 square, and each of the columns then is knowledge, importance, and action. And so for knowledge, there's 3 root solutions: importance, 3 root solutions; action, 3 root solutions. And when you close the knowledge, importance, and action gaps, you're there.
Yeah. All right. So we're now a little bit into this podcast. I'm sure everyone is curious. We've kept them in suspense. Do you want to walk through the root solutions for knowledge?
Yeah, so the root solutions that we found for knowledge, and again, we were expecting maybe one of them, but we didn't necessarily expect all of them. The first was training, pretty obvious. The second was teaching, not as obvious. And the third was talent, and it wasn't as obvious. So we found that the winning leaders not only ensured that the training was verifiable and completed for the given roles underneath them, but they spent time then teaching throughout their role, and they hired talent that would fit the role, and they were very focused on those three. You want me to go through some of the details of
Yeah.
training?
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you walk through them and then I
So,
can
so
throw in some comments.
training, so we found the habit ladder, and it is a way to go from, learning something to really creating habit. And often in an organization or a team, there's a process that has to be habit. So in Gapology, we teach how to create habit through the habit ladder. Anything on that before I go on?
No, I think training is the one that, like you said, is sort of obvious. I think most people, when you think, if the team doesn't know what to do or how to do it, you need to train them. But it's
Yeah.
more than what most companies really do. Sitting them in front of a computer or having them watch a video, that's not necessarily the training that we're talking about. We're talking about creating habits around the things that are most important.
Well, you're bringing up a great point. So the bottom performing leaders, when they looked at training, they blamed the people that didn't do it for not being trained.
Hmm.
They didn't take ownership for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So the training was horrible, and they blamed the people that were being trained. So the
Hmm.
training has to be fantastic, and it has to achieve habit level. So the leader owns the knowledge gap, and the leader owns the training. And the bottom group consistently blamed their team, and the top group owned it and redid it and redid it until they could verify that the training was completed. So verification of training became their standard and it worked. The next, again, we're on the framework of the nine. So training, then teaching. So the bottom group may have thought those were the same thing. They weren't. The top performing group, the leaders, viewed themselves as teachers, separate from training. They taught every time they were with their team. Anytime they were on a call, anytime they were in person with them, they taught. They viewed the leader's role as teaching and that it was ongoing. It would never end. So when we're together, we teach. Um, they did it in every interaction. So they viewed an interaction with their team as an opportunity to teach. The other thing that they were different on is they seem to be working to replace themselves. So the bottom performing leaders didn't want their replacement to come along because that might be self-fulfilling. The top performing group wanted to replace themselves many times over. They wanted people developed to the level that they could replace them because they understood that their career could soar from that and the
Hmm.
organization would soar.
Hmm.
So training and teaching were incredible root solutions to closing the knowledge gap.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That identity I think is important. And in fact, we have another book back here. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, I see
If,
it there.
if you're
What's that title?
yeah, so that's Imbar. That's our second book.
Inbar. I've heard
So
about that.
yeah. So if you're curious about that, just go to our website.
Oh,
You
I've
can
got it right
check
here.
that out too. But in there
Right
we talk,
here.
yeah, in there we talk about identity and who you are. So, we're talking about these leaders had the identity of being a teacher, and that created that mindset, and their behavior then was to teach. And that's why that's one of the root solutions. And I just gave you the first two or first three of the acronym IMBAR,
Yeah.
IMBAR.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so training and teaching in the framework also led then to talent. So the
Mhm.
A group, the top performing leaders that we spent time with and observed, were interviewing people that were as good as them, or that could replace them. They were looking for their replacement,
Mhm.
and they knew that their career would soar if they were hiring people that could replace them. It was interesting in the C group, the bottom performing 10%, those interviews, they were avoiding people that could replace them. They were looking for uh, a lower level person because they were, not as confident, I guess. So the bottom line is top talent changes everything. So in your interview process, be comparing it with your top performers and be looking for those top performers' talents in the interview process and be looking for your own replacement. I've replaced myself 5+ times over, and it's been an incredibly positive thing. It it creates incredible results.
Mhm.
Imagine you in your role with five of you.
Mhm.
Everything changes. So
Yeah.
anyhow, so the knowledge gap is closed by training, teaching, and talent. Those are the three root solutions.
Yeah. And the last thing I'd say on that, especially around talent, is there's really three primary ways to get talent on your team. One is you can certainly go to the outside and hire it. And building really great interview processes and so forth can give you some at least a good head start on that. You can transfer it in from maybe another department, bringing that talent over to your team. And then the biggest one, though, I think the biggest opportunity that we actually have a lot of control over is we can develop it. So through really great training that brings people up to the habit level and the habit ladder and so forth, And really that teaching element, I think, can help to grow that talent. Coaching, feedback, all those things that you can do on a regular basis. But just having that mindset of a teacher really does, put that talent in your team.
Yeah, we've found that the top performing leaders teach their talented people Gapology,
Hmm.
and that can change everything for them as well. So this becomes a big piece of it.
Yep. Yep.
But, well said.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So next is
gap,
importance. Yep.
the importance gap is closed by expectations, communication, and prioritization. So we found that the top performing leaders always set very clear expectations. You may call them KPIs. 3 to 5 seem to be the best number. And they knew the behaviors that equaled those. And that was game changing. So a metric with a set of behaviors that equaled that in that organization, they knew that and they worked towards that. And they published the results daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be, um, by setting very clear expectations. You close the importance gap often right there. We found that we handed an index card to subordinates of leaders, and we asked, okay, what's your leader expect? And the top performing leaders had an 87% match rate. So the team wrote down 87% of the time the right stuff that the leader had written on their card. And the bottom performers had a 14% match rate. So 87 to 14. So expectations close the importance gap. It's huge and you need to be great at it.
Hmm. Yeah. The expectations to me of all the root solutions, this is the one I think has the most opportunity for leaders. And the temptation for seasoned leaders might be, well, I'm really good at this. This is something that's my bread and butter. I excel at this. I would challenge that. I would really ask yourself, all right, so how clear really am I? And then use that index card exercise as sort of your litmus test to see. What we've actually found, we've done this hundreds of times with different groups. Most times they do not have a connection there. They might get one, or they might be sort of connected on some things where that the actual expectation isn't so clear that the person recites it exactly. So really think that through. I think there's an opportunity for everybody there.
It's huge.
Mm.
Brian and I were embedded into an organization to help them learn Gapology. And when we got there, they had 45 KPIs, 45 numbers. So as a team member, I could just pick and choose which ones I'm top in, right? So we quickly narrowed the 45 to 5, everyone accountable for the 5, and the business took off like unbelievably. I think they quintupled their multi-billion-dollar business by narrowing to 5 KPIs versus 45. So it just changed the level of expectation. Everyone clear on what mattered and what mattered most. We ranked the KPIs in terms of their impact on profitability, and it was very clear which ones were the top 5. So don't have more than 3 to 5. Keep it simple. But again, hand an index card to your team and ask them, what do I expect of you? Write down the top 3 things, and you'll see your clarity as a leader.
Mm.
So we found that the top performing leaders closed the gap of importance by having expectations as a root solution being clear. Anything to add before I hit communication?
Nope, nope. I think you're good there.
So communication was the next root solution. So the top performing leaders communicated consistently around their expectations and around um, the things that would close the gap. So their communication was a form of closing expectation gap if there was a gap there in the importance gap. Everything was about that, if that makes sense. They celebrated the top performers, as an example, in those expectations. They discussed how to achieve that. They allowed the top performers to speak and share best practices. Everything aligned with the purpose of closing that importance gap and achieving the expectation that was set.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I would say that was very obvious was that the winning leaders, the top A player people, they didn't cloud their messages. When they were speaking, they were very specific and clear on what matters for the organizational goals, the team goals, whatever group that they were leading. They were very specific about this stuff. They didn't cloud it with a bunch of stuff that really didn't matter as much. In their meetings,
They narrowed the communication
yes, yes, it
to
was
the things that mattered.
right, exactly.
They
The things
kept
that
it narrow.
yeah, the things that really drove the numbers that they were going after, or if it was even an interpersonal relationship type of a conversation, maybe you're providing a little bit of coaching for somebody that needs a little help. That was very specific about whatever that outcome was that they were going after. They didn't cloud it with a bunch of stuff. So I think keeping things simple, keeping it narrow really does matter.
Yeah. So the last root solution under the importance gap is prioritization. And we found that the bottom performing group didn't understand this one at all. So when does something have to be done? We found in the top performing group that they knew when. I know that may sound strange, but when often matters. So think of a process you need to complete as a team. When matters. So the top performing group knew it, the bottom performing group didn't know it. And they knew the order of things. And that's prioritization as well. And it really became quite clear that prioritization from the leader about what mattered most was a root solution to closing the importance gap. When the
Mhm.
leader is clear on the priorities, everything changes, everything gets clearer, and performance happens.
Yeah. Yeah, just a quick little story. So I work with a team that the leader's very, very good with this. He really excels with prioritization. He has in Microsoft 365, they have their OneNote. So they have a shared OneNote with the team. And he actually goes in and puts, this is the number one priority. He actually puts a number one there that the team then goes, I know this is the number one thing to work on this week. Number two, number three, number four. And he goes through and does that, not to micromanage anything, but really so that he doesn't have to. So he can actually take a step back and know that the team's going to work on these things. And then in their meetings, that's what they talk about. These are the top five priorities. This is why they're in this order. And this is why the effort around these five things really matters.
Yeah. So that's the
Mhm.
knowledge and importance gaps. And the leader owns those. You have to close those. The action gap's a little different. The team then has to step up and do their part. So we found that the three root solutions there were accountability, you creating that accountability, holding them accountable, then commitment, which is huge. Everyone sees your commitment, by the way, and they're clear on that, and then creating a culture of it. So can I jump in on this?
Sure. Yep.
So on accountability, we found the top performing group made performance matter. It matters. This is what we do. It's important. The bottom performing group downplayed it a bit. It's okay. We'll get to it tomorrow. Didn't happen. Non-performers were removed from the top performers groups. You have to perform to be here. That created accountability. Everybody understood it. The top performers really understand it. Top performers hate to work with non-performers.
Hmm.
So if you as a leader allow non-performers on the team, you're damaging the performance of the top performers. So if you don't perform, you can't be here. The other thing that was amazing is the top performers held consistent celebration around performance. And everybody therefore knew what mattered. They knew who was getting high-fived and applause, standing ovations. Standing ovations were incredibly common, by the way, within the teams of top performers. And guess what? It all related to the expectations that they had set. So that was accountability.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned there at the end that it matters what the expectations are, because I do think that there's a direct link between accountability and expectations. If you haven't set those expectations for your team, how could you possibly create any sort of real long-term accountability strategy
Yeah,
without
you're the issue then, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
leader's the issue.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I think metrics are good, scoreboards are good. Anytime you can track performance, it gives you the evidence of the behaviors. But if you haven't done those steps under the knowledge and importance gap first, if you haven't you applied those root solutions there to close those, it really doesn't give you a lot of leg to stand on there.
Yeah. So accountability leads to commitment, a key root solution. So the team knows your commitment as a leader. They see it in everything that you do. You need to be very clear and look at your own behavior. It should be obvious to all. Your commitment should be obvious to all. You should model the behavior that you expect. So we were in a retail environment where the leader was claiming to expect certain customer service expectations, yet would then walk by every
Mhm.
customer that
Yep.
they were near.
Yep.
So they didn't model the behavior. You got to model the behavior. And you've got to teach and communicate very consistently. Your commitment, again, is obvious to your team. If it's there, they know it. They feel it every day. If it's not there, they know it. They see it all the time. And that means that those KPIs don't really matter that much.
Mhm.
So the commitment of the team is driven by you. And it is absolutely critical. When you create a team that is committed to achieving the KPIs, the results that you expect, you're unbeatable.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to just mention around commitment, uh, I think it can sort of vary between task to task to task, or responsibility to responsibility. When you have people on your team and they have multiple things that they're responsible for doing, they might have a higher commitment level to one thing over another. And it's something to sort of be aware of as a leader. Really look for the warning signs, the little red flags that might pop up around a lack of commitment around specific things. And I think even as leaders, we have those things that we just maybe enjoy doing more, or we're better at, or whatever. We might lean into those. So just sort of be on the lookout for that. I think that's an important thing. The other thing
Well, and
is,
come back there to prioritization, closing the importance gap,
yeah.
observing that, and then meeting with that team member and reviewing the priorities that we have and the expectations can be significant because
Hmm.
they may not have heard the message as clearly as you did.
Right, right. Yeah, and your knowledge gap might be exposed there. So if you don't do those things, if you don't ask those questions and dig in, you might have a knowledge gap around how connected your team members are to those specific, tasks and things that you're asking them to do.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
So the last root solution for the action gap is culture. So this is powerful. It's purpose driven. We've found that the top performing leaders create a culture around what they're doing, a purpose around what they're doing. We wrote a book called Speed of Purpose because we found that leaders with a purpose that was communicated to the team far outperformed, and we proved it mathematically that they achieved results that were greater. And so creating a culture around your KPIs and around those behaviors is huge. And creating a culture around achieving expectations, where you announce our annual banquet this year will be to celebrate the leaders in these areas. Whoa, they've got a year to achieve that. They know it's coming. That creates a culture around that. It's incredibly powerful. So celebration creates culture. We found that the top performing leaders celebrate regularly around top performance when it relates to the expectations that they have.
Mhm.
So they were very consistent in that. And the bottom performing group, the C group we call them, did not create a culture of accountability.
Mhm.
They created a culture of mediocrity at best, and mediocrity does not lead to greatness.
Mhm. Yeah, one other thing I'd like to sort of mention here that I think leaders should sort of pause and look at. So when you think about culture, and you can talk about the higher level culture that you're talking about there, Mark, celebrating, creating like a culture of winning, a culture of action, and things like that. But when you look at each of the root solutions, I was going through this as you were talking, I was thinking, are we creating a culture of training? Where training really is part of our culture, where we're crafting the tactics to go after that. Do we have a culture of teaching where our leaders are acting as teachers? Do we have a culture of talent where we're seeking out the best talent for our team? And you can apply that all the way through all the root solutions.
Wow, that's huge.
Expectations, yeah, communication.
The culture sort of closes the deal.
Yeah, exactly. And we talk in Gapology about leadership rhythm, which is really your cadence, your regular process for doing things in a week. And think about pausing from time to time, blocking out time in your schedule to think about the culture. What is the culture that I'm creating around these different root solutions? And if you're not consciously blocking time to do those things, it might be time to sort of pause and think about how you could.
Wow, huge, 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 huge. Well said.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what are the 9 root solutions, Brian? Walk us through them real quick and we'll close it out.
All right. Under knowledge gap, we have training, teaching, and talent. Think about those. Under importance gaps, we have expectations, communication, prioritization. Under action gap, we have accountability, commitment, and culture.
And we know these work. We didn't invent them. We
Right.
found them in top performance.
Yep. And we see it proven time and time again with different leaders that we work with. So,
Go for it. Give us a call.
all right. So yeah, reach out if anybody has questions on this stuff or pick up the book. That's a great way to do it as well. Just go to our website, gapology.org. You can find all the links for everything there. But otherwise, feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk to you.
We're on Audible too.
Audible too. Absolutely. But thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll talk to you later. All right. That'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology or any of our other books or the leadership workshops that we offer, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. Talk to you soon.